everybody in to another Thursday live chat. I know we're 2 minutes behind here, but sometimes the pre-interview, when you're talking to a guest, you start going back and forth and you have, some fun and you're exchanging some pleasantries. But I also really enjoy talking to this individual. He's actually part of our strategic sessions that we had after the Home Service Super Summit and was by far the most popular guest there. Everyone loved being in the room with him. He spoke at the Home Service Super Summit, which you have the all access, or if you went to our guide and you saw the notes, he was dropping a ton of knowledge over there. But we wanted to bring him here to our Nice Job community so you get a chance to see him up close and personal as well. It is Ryan Kettering. Ryan, how are you this evening?
Very good. Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
So we're going to get into a little bit about you, but I'd like to remind everybody, if you have any questions, you can put them down in the chat, and I'll pass them along, a bit later into our conversation. But put a thumbs up, like if you get a good point there. Feel free just to comment if you don't have a question. Get involved in the conversation here. So Ryan, let's just start right off the bat. It's prolific prince, if I'm not mistaken. Couldn't tell if it was prolific or prolific prince. If you always do both, and
Yeah, we're starting to, and that's, it's interesting because as your company grows, you grow and sort of adapt, and we're actually shifting towards more of the prolific because our brand started out as being more of a print company that designs, and as you continue to mold yourself and the way you present yourself. So we're shifting, trying to have our brand show that we're really a design company that offers printing, and so we're making those little shifts and tweaks. And so it just kind of shows that everyone is sort of working on their brand and, trying to communicate more clearly to the market, who they are and what they offer and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's, getprolific.com is the easiest way to find us. So.
Yeah, it's kind of right off the top. We're getting, the challenges of maybe you're making a name shift or something like that. But it kind of also talks about, you yourself, it kind of have evolution. Because you just weren't always in the prolific design sort of thing. You actually started in the home service industry, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for 10 years, I ran a carpet cleaning company. And like many people, I picked that up because it was something that I knew how to do. I had worked for several years before that with another guy that ran a company. That was really my first, so this is really my second, real business, so the first one with the carpet cleaning really allowed me to learn a lot about business, learn a lot about, just a lot of banging my head against the wall, figuring things out. Didn't have a lot of guidance. But then as I, got further with that, I had an opportunity to make a shift, and I thought that I was going into a better vehicle, which I ended up making the right bet, I think. But at the time it was pretty scary, but I made that shift, and I took the things I learned about business with the home service industry, and then luckily was able to really have a sort of ear to the ground with these types of industries and helping them with some of the things that I found that I was struggling with as well. So
when did you get the opportunity to do something along the lines of what you're doing now, branding help with your own business or anything like that? Like, was it you got a little taste of it and felt that that's what you wanted to pursue? Or was it, you kind of felt a passion and a need to serve the rest of home service? Or was it a bit of both? Like, what was the moment where you're like, okay, I got to make that shift?
I think I'm a big believer in sort of things clicking in place when they ought to. And, I don't know what you call it, but I just, I've literally went out and like one time in Vegas for an enormous group of people, I popped for dinner, and it wasn't a cheap thing. And for me, but it was important for me to do that night at like 3 a.m., the exact to the dollar amount that I spent on dinner came back in my account with another transaction. It wasn't like I was like hurting for money, but it was something where I was putting myself out and doing something that I thought was special for me and for others. And it came back like literally within hours to the exact dollar amount. And stuff like that happens all the time for me, where like things just click in place and it just seems like the path is sort of laid in front of you. And so like in high school, I was always wanted to do graphics. I just didn't really see how I would fit into the market there, right? And I didn't really see an opportunity, but I knew how to do the service thing with the carpet cleaning. And so I went into that because that's just like what I have, like what I'm equipped with. And, it's probably good because I probably would have ended up starting something bad and then shutting that down later if I hadn't had that other experience. So it all kind of worked out. But yeah, I really had always had a passion for graphics and that area, but didn't really know how that worked in the practical world. I'm like thinking, well, how do you make money painting or something? You know what I mean? Like, and it just didn't. I had that sort of starving artist idea in my head, and but then yeah, as I started to go, and I mentioned this like in the home service summit as well, super summit, but you know, I started and I'm like, okay, let's rock and roll, get the website up, and boom, the calls are gonna come in, and they just don't, right? And that's we all experience that where we think that you sort of build it and they come, and that's not what happens. And so you're like, all right, well, I need sales. So you start reading about sales, and Zig Ziglar was one of my favorites. And then you figure out, okay, well, sales doesn't matter if I have no one to convert. So I need marketing. And then once you start marketing, you figure out that everyone's doing the same marketing channels. Everybody's pretty much saying the same things. And so now it's like, all right, I pretty much look like everyone else. And that's where you get the branding. And branding allows you to shift the conversation and shift what people are thinking about and talking about when it comes to your solution, your industry offering. I can't find the right word that I'm thinking there, but not just your company, but your area of business and your company and how you guys do business. And so, yeah, I went along that like sort of path, and I kind of ended up where I started with the next business, and so it really worked out well. And I just felt that it was really something that I'm passionate about. Is I think especially small business. There's so many people that are struggling and hurting and really having a tough time, and it can be a really mentally fatiguing. And I feel like if you have that information that's like just one step higher than somebody else is at in a particular area, it's really our responsibility to sort of bring that pass the elevator down when you're done with it. And so this is kind of my part of what I'm doing is like I feel like there's really not a lot of people that are talking about some of the things that we help with, or really helping people to understand them. And so for me, it's just a great opportunity to try to help people in an area that they're maybe not as familiar with, but I found was very, very important as you start moving along in your company. So.
As you're aware, Nice Job, we deal with reviews, which is just customer feedback and things like that. And sometimes in a very visual field, the highlights of your portfolio are the images, is kind of the finished work. However, in doing a little research for our conversation and, talking to some people that had worked with you, or came in contact with you, the reviews I get about you are not like very little about the brand. It's the process and how you kind of take them through, and you kind of said that someone discovering things they didn't necessarily know about themselves to come up to this. Was that something that because of your definition of what what a brand is, or was that like that's what we have to go down these roads to get to really what you need, not what you want, because what you want might not be what you need.
Yeah, it's I'm still figuring these things out, but this we've started implementing a pretty in-depth branding discovery call with every rebrand that we do right now. And we also do sort of lighter discovery calls on what I would consider sort of brand critical pieces as well, like truck wraps or high level literature, things like this, just to make sure that we have a really good understanding of how it fits into the whole. But what I found was that, like you said, people come in and what they want, people will tell you they want one thing, because they believe that that's what they want and need. But then once you do that for them, it never feels right. And they can't figure out why because they don't know what they want. And you can't figure out why as a designer because you've literally done what they asked to the best of your ability. And so what I found was, like you said, there's a gap between what they want and what they actually need. And understanding that was really allows us to do better work for people, more effective work, more concise project timelines and things like that. And so I really figured out that, I had to do that. And the aha sort of moments that we have with people are really rewarding. And not everybody's at that level. I get on the phone with some people and I'm kind of honing in the questions to understand where people are at, but not everybody's ready to go sort of deep into some of the more fundamental reasons why they're in business. Hey, I just want a cool logo and things like that, right? And that's okay. Like, we're all at different spots, but I still leave them with, kind of help them meet them where they're at and help them improve their brand. And there's so many ways that you can improve your brand, even if you're, no matter what level that you're at. And, something as simple as, for instance, NiceJob, every touch point that you have with a customer is an opportunity to improve the perception and how people feel about the experiences they've had. And, one thing that you can do that NiceJob does is celebrating wins, right? So when a customer has a good experience, what a lot of people don't realize about a review is that it is a review that is positive for another person down the road. And it is also an opportunity to get that negative feedback so that you can adjust and shift and have good customer service. But it's also an opportunity to celebrate a win with a customer. And that's incredible to sort of spearhead for someone to have that experience and be a part of that with them and be able to reach back out to them and confirm that and celebrate with them. But anytime you can improve any of those touch points, it's your branding, right? And so part of what we do is that visual branding, which essentially most of us have visual things on all of our things, all of our marketing materials and sales and websites. And so, you can improve also touch points with visual aspects, but it could be how you're on the phone with people. It could be the procedures and processes that you put in place in your business. It could be the reasons why you do certain things. And, so it's all branding, and we kind of meet people where they're at and try to help them get to the next level. So.
This might be a kind of a difficult question, but I kind of want to almost as a thought exercise to kind of see how you would answer it. But you talk about having, the core values or, the essence of what a business is come out through branding. Is there an easy characteristic to get across, and is there a most difficult characteristic to get across when it comes? Because it's, culture and who you are as a business is probably pretty diverse, and there might be a feeling of trying to work almost too much in. But is there something that maybe in breaking it down, you're like, well, all right, the easy thing we can get is starting here, and perhaps the most difficult thing is there. Any experiences come to mind, or any examples of like almost we always can usually fit this in, but it's really difficult to fit that in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think most sort of deep fundamental things are hard to explicitly get across throughout many experiences. But you want it to sort of add to the whole and complete like an overall statement through all of these touch points. And so I think, the easy and hard about it is I think there is people that will sort of try to force things in. And I think that, through feedback with customers and feedback with employees, I think you should be able to kind of feel out if you have something that feels a bit gimmicky or like it just doesn't fit, like doesn't feel native to the experience. I think over time you can kind of flesh those things out. But really it's about just creating, once you have those core values and I think more importantly, a core belief, which the core values should stem from. Because if you can't get like 4 or 5 core values, I think just one core belief is really enough. Like, we don't all need to believe in a bajillion things. We just need to stand on really one solid foundation. And when you can do that, you can start to just do things that you don't have to worry about making sure the person even knows what that thing is necessarily. Just illustrating this a bit, you could certainly do that, but the objective is acting as though people to see your actions and the things you say and do and the way that you do things as something that lines up with that. So even if they can't tell what that foundation is, that when they know what that is, like, okay, this is a company that is grounded in being trustworthy is like the most important thing. And maybe that's because, maybe they, served in military or were a police officer or maybe a mother, right? And they had a bad experience and they thought, I don't want people to have this. And so, they create some sort of business that fills this need in the market where they really feel like they're adding something that's not there enough. And as long as the things that you do add up to sort of being in that, people will get that feeling. And then when you tell them that, they're like, oh, wow, that makes sense, right? One of my favorite businesses is Chick-Fil-A, and they're all about service. And you might not know exactly what is going on when you're in there. Like, you might not be able to say, oh, this brand is centered in this. But the experience as a whole, if you go on their website and read the About Me or something like that, you'll start to be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I understand why they do these certain things a little bit differently. And that's really what it's about. It's about looking through a lens that says, this is how we are. Seth Godin has a saying that he always uses, people like us do things like this, right? And what he's talking about is culture, but when you have a belief, that becomes sort of your company culture. And so if people like us, who we are, do things like this, we do it in this way, we do it because of these reasons, that starts to just come out in everything. And now you can sort of, it points back either directly or indirectly. But one of the really cool things about branding that I think people miss is that one of the biggest problems for small business is that business owners will say, I can't find good people. I can't train good people. I can't get them. I put people on the truck, and then what the homeowners are telling me, they just didn't do it like you did, right? I want you. And that's a big struggle and a big sort of checkpoint that we have to go through, all of us. But one of the things I think people miss about branding is a systematic way of replicating the how and why we do it. So if you train somebody to clean a window, right? Because that's not that difficult, right? Or whatever, do plumbing or clean. You can find technicians and, send them to tech school, whatever. But once they have that, it's not really that difficult, but it's the how and why that's really difficult. And actually defining your brand and getting these things set up and looking for ways to systematize them, that's how you can fix I like that guy just as much as the owner now, because it feels the same.
It's interesting you brought up Chick-fil-A. They are a very interesting study when it comes to, how they brand, because there's a couple things that they do that you talk about, like promoting that service element. I've heard you in the past bring up, that they don't have your own drinks to refill. Someone usually do it. And they usually have someone roving around their lobby. And another great thing that they do, it comes off as service, but there's actually a strategic reason why they do it. And it's when every so often you go to Chick-fil-A drive-thru, and they'll have the person out with the tablet taking an order before the order board. Mm-hmm. And, from the restaurant side, I don't know if you ever worked in the restaurant industry and things like that, there's a concept of if you get someone to place an order, and even before they pay, but if you get them to place an order, they're more likely to wait a tiny bit longer because now they're slowly invested. Mm. So Chick-fil-A tends to do that from time to time when the lines start getting longer, things like that. However, it also puts a face instead of a menu board. Yeah. So now the interaction's that much more, and it looks like an extra effort. I'm not trying, it's not an extra effort, but it's because they do so many other things that it makes it very clear that this is what Chick-fil-A is about. Unless you've been in the restaurant industry, you'll never think about the person that's taking your order before the board. Yeah. You'll never think of it as like a strategy to keep me in line. You think of it as Chick-fil-A going the extra effort, right. and the personal touch and meeting all that. And it's very interesting because that's something they've built out, but it's not like the Chick-fil-A logo says, we stand for service, like you mentioned before. Everything isn't put into the simple branding they may have, but it's definitely throughout every element of what they do.
One saying that I say a lot is, and I think is really helpful when people are trying to figure out, how do I create a brand that's meaningful and that actually makes me stand out and look different, right? Everybody wants to be different, but doing it through gimmicks makes you look fake. It makes you look untrustworthy, and that's what people buy trust, right? They want to know that the things you say are what's going to happen. And the biggest thing you can do is stop telling me and start showing me, right? So Chick-fil-A doesn't have to tell you service, service, service when you're, you probably don't see that word or hear that word once while you're there, right?
True.
But the actions line up. And even the things that do out, maybe outside, they might have, a kids church group or a kids school group come in that they sponsor and things like, so they're really in line with, the community and things like that. And it's, if you're saying we're the best, I think you really got to stop and question, okay, well, why are we the best? And if we're doing things through the lens of us being the absolute best, pressure washer or plumber or carpet cleaner, does this actually line up with this? Did we answer the phone? Does the best companies answer the phone? How do they answer the phone? How do they show up the jobs? What about if it's a company that's grounded in, being eco-friendly? So many people use that, right? Oh, we're eco-friendly. Well, I talked to a pressure washer the other day. They are doing all kinds of things that I've never even thought of to be eco-friendly because it truly means something to them. So they've converted all their vehicles to running off of some sort of eco-friendly fuel. They've actually had to invest money into every single vehicle they have to do this. That's a much different thing than somebody that says we're eco-friendly and maybe they try to, when possible, use eco-friendly chemicals or something, right? So a lot of times most companies just say things that they don't really do them. And all you have to do, you could be literally saying the same things as somebody else, but if you do them, it's a much different story because people think about it. Chick-fil-A being the example we've been referencing, customer service. Everyone says we're the best in customer service. Everybody says service is important. The customer's always right, right? But no one does it, right? And so just simply doing what you say, or maybe you don't even say it because you just want to show it. You just want to be it. You just want to live it. And once you get people understanding the how and the why you do things, and they can consistently act on that, that's where the beauty happens. And you come up with so many more things. So share one more thing about a friend of mine here, Cranmore Carpet Cleaning. Every year they do a Santa Claus visit where they have Santa and Mrs. Claus out to their shop, and it's a huge community event. And all these people come in, they get so many leads and stuff like that. And I guarantee you that if their brand wasn't based in the fact that community is important and community is something that is special and should be, lifted up and things like, if their brand wasn't based in that, no one is sitting around saying, what should we do for marketing this year to make money? Oh, let's call Santa, right? Nobody says that, right? They're going to say, oh, let's look at direct mail or TV or Facebook or whatever. But when you understand why you're doing things and the lens you're going to look through, you come up with so many new creative ideas that you would have never thought of that are in line with the brand, that make sense with the brand, and no one else is going to do them.
It's great. I got caught up when you said call Santa at first. For many years of my life, I feel like Santa was only available at malls and other sort of scenarios. Apparently, he has a number somewhere. So we'll get on that. A deep investigation to find that out. So we'll get into. I want to dive a little bit deeper into kind of like building a brand or kind of what elements go into that. We know the culture thing, but are there some things that people might think are, I don't know, too expensive but are actually in reach? Or is there small things like if you're getting started, so you have an idea, you want to start rolling out, like what's an important first couple steps when it comes to the actual physical, the visual nature of it? What are some tips people might want to think about or expect to do as part of their first steps?
Yeah, so for visual branding, so we have a branding checklist. I'll send you the link to it that you can maybe drop in later on. But
we'll include it in the description. I'll throw it in the comments below after.
There's 7 sections here. The first 2 are based off of those more fundamental sort of this is who we are and how we do things and why we do things, right? And then the next steps are going to be how to build out the rest of the brand, the front-facing brand. So not so much the ideas, but the actual things. And when it comes to visual branding, the simplest way to set up your visual brand, I would say, is to get a professional logo done. Once you have that first kind of core idea stuff done, get your logo set up. and then one or two brand focus pieces, which would be like your truck wrap or business cards or signage, and one or two sales or marketing content focus pieces. So that would be brochures, postcards, things like this. And then of course your website, which could actually fall into kind of one or both of those categories. But the reason I say that is that now you've worked through a lot of the challenges that will come into place. So this way, if you have one postcard done, a lot of the visual elements that you'll need for another one will be done already. And large companies have pretty expensive brand books that they use that go through all of this different stuff. Most small businesses don't sort of have the next 5 years of content set up for themselves. So, really creating the core stuff that you can kind of base things off of and reference back is the easiest way to set up your visual brand. As far as, maybe things being cheaper or more expensive than people think, the thing is about branding that all of it's cheap in comparison to what you're going to get out of it. And I guess it's not cheap, it's really inexpensive, because all of it is more of an investment into an asset. Even the touch points, like even the stuff that doesn't involve even paying somebody else, right? When you're creating a branding system, both visual and the actual, brand itself, every part of that, I can't think of one thing that is sort of one and done that will never get more value later. So when you create a logo, right? If you want a better visual brand, you could literally just create just the logo, slap it on all of every horribly designed piece ever, and all of those stuff's going to look better than it was, and it's going to be more you than it was, right? Even with that simple thing. Then add in professionally creating the other things and looking at the language and the images to make sure it all matches up, and getting that all to kind of come full circle and be cohesive. All of it sort of is an investment that's one time, and then it's going to pay off forever. And like I said, even the touch points, like when you go in and add NiceJob and you create a touch point that creates that the ability to have better customer service, the ability to celebrate those wins, right there. That is something you set up one time, and now it's done. You don't have to think about that later, right? And that's going to keep paying off in the future. And so all these branding things, they just keep paying off. You can get a logo done really for any price, right? You could go free, you could go $100,000. There's some logos that cost, I think the highest one's like over $100 million. But these are large companies. And they're getting paid off based off the impact and also the amount of people and time involved. But usually, for us, for the businesses we serve, you can usually probably get a nice logo somewhere between $1,000 to $10,000, and it's a big range, but just depends on what you're looking for. But that's the logo, and I really think that person ought to probably help guide you through, especially at the higher price point, help guide you to make sure you're getting what you need for the business, not just what you're asking for. Because you have to sort of step back and say, maybe I don't, I'm hiring a professional for a reason. Maybe I don't know all this stuff. So help me out, right? Like help me to understand what I need. And it's not to say you can't have your own ideas, but kicking those off of a professional that can walk you through sort of the pros and cons and things like that, I think is very helpful. So just the same way that in your trade, you advise your customers, you want somebody to advise you on the aspects you don't understand, know as well.
Yeah, I'm always surprised. Home service professionals, you hear a lot of the conversation amongst one another when they talk about, they're looking for their unique sales proposition and things of that nature. And they talk about, being the professional and going forward. And, there's the cheap guys that give the deals, but I'm the one that does the quality service. And yet they'll kind of like turn around and bargain shop on Fiverr, which as someone who was on the creative side for a long time, Fiverr sometimes is that dirty word out there because, it's mass produced, but you're not really getting you're getting a product delivered. You're not necessarily getting the work done because they're going to whip up wherever. There's no real connection there. So it's, think of it as an investment that you might pay a little bit more, but that's going to pay off over time because, the more professional your brand looks, or just, small little things, not to get too technical, but like having your logo be able to scale up and scale down size-wise. Can't tell you how many times I hear people off of Fiverr and then they have one size of a logo, then they try to make it, bigger or smaller, and they run into some pixelation problems and things like that. But it really is an investment that kind of pays off over time. And I think, I don't know if you mentioned it just now, but I wanted to touch on it. I didn't before, but I heard about getting like professional photography done,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something we at NiceJob, because you have the ability to add photos within your reviews. But with like a convert website, when we build those out, if you have custom photography, something that's like really good for you, it really it's so it pays off almost instantly because the photos are high quality, things like that. I don't know if you want to touch on a bit further on that of why getting high quality photography can pay off almost immediately.
Yeah, there's just so many. To me, all right, look, people like you were saying, like the guy that they say, oh, we're the best, we're the highest price, and then they go cheap on something else. That's, to me, that's a conflict with someone's brand. That's a conflict with their own personality.
Hmm.
You know, if you're the best, then you make sure that you're getting the best for your customers, and that's evidence of saying one thing and acting a different way, right? You don't. And that person can only go so far with that sort of split personality going, and that's what happens. Is we have this sort of true north of where we want to go and who we want to be, and our goal is to really line up with that. People go nuts because their actions, like people in life, they go crazy because their actions, they can't reconcile them with who they sort of believe and want to be and believe who they are. And they start to sort of split into like these different, like categorizing their life in different areas, and it can't all coexist. And so your goal as the company is to create that thing and really live it out. And I'll give you an example that, and I hope this doesn't sound like I'm arrogant or cocky or anything like this, but we don't do discounts at our company. And when somebody asks us, it's it's not the same. Like I've seen people post online, do you do discounts? No. Like we'll tell people, and we even have stuff on our website that helps, but we don't live in a world of limitations. We live in a world of abundance. And so we believe that, I'll never ask for a discount anywhere. Like even if I have my wife give me a coupon and it's in my pocket, I usually don't even use it because it doesn't mean anything to me. It's not, I would rather overpay for things than underpay for them. Right. And that's just how I am. And so it's important to me to live that out. And it's important that I connect with other people that believe similar things, because I don't want, think about it like this too, for anybody out there, just kind of a tangent, giving discounts, is that if you give a discount, now you have to actually spend more time and money to go back next year to figure out what did they pay. And then it actually, if I have to go back and look at the costs and all that stuff, I literally should charge more to do a discount, which puts me right back in the same spot, right? So it's just, there's certain things like that where you just have to take a stance on who you are and who you are as a company. And, your employees, that'll start to rub off on too. And so you kind of want to model and imprint how you think the world should be on the world around you. Otherwise, what are we doing with our business if we're not sort of making a change for better, as through what we see is better, what we think is better. But some of those low-hanging things that you can do, and I really think all of them are sort of in the end very inexpensive, and they're so in grasp for even small businesses. Your website, if you can hire a professional, you should. And I know some people, they have their WordPress deals and they can make it look pretty good. I'm telling you, you don't know what the pros know. I can tell you from experience, because I put together the layout of our website, but I can tell you the back end is a mess until I hired a professional, right? And you don't know what this stuff does because you just don't know. Same thing with photography and the logo and your truck wrap. These are all low-hanging fruit for you to do because they're one-time investments for the most part. I mean, yeah, you might need a little maintenance and upkeep on some of these things, but if your website costs $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it costs to get done, do it. It's one time. You're done with that, right? For the most part. Professional photography, like you're saying, if you look at a lot of major sites, like one site that I recently ordered like shirts from was customink.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you go on their site, they show their customers using their product and their professional photography, and it just makes it feel so much more warm, and you really get that brand coming through. And the thing about people is, for thousands of years we've been looking at other people. We haven't been looking at ads. We haven't been looking at signage and logos. We've been looking at people's faces, right? So when you can start to infuse the way that you want your brand to look, and the expressions even that are coming through, and be just your own, it really makes it more you. But yeah, it's such an easy thing to do. Headshots are great, but I really like sort of the more in action, serving the customer stuff for like your hero images. But for your about page, like the headshots and things like that are great. And your truck wrap, you get, a lot of people don't realize, you get almost 50,000 impressions on average per day. It's a 3M national study that was done on your vehicle. So throwing on some lettering or a magnet, like, okay, like you did something for now, but you're missing out if you're not, you have a, $30, $50, $100,000 vehicle, depending on what you have, that's rolling around. You may as well capitalize on the eyeballs that it's getting from front of as well. I'm a big believer in really maximizing every step. So looking for opportunities to leverage what we already have in place. So that's why, our customers do 5 around, because if you're at the house, you're already physically near somebody. You may as well take advantage of the social proof and the marketing to do the 5 around. You're leveraging your time. I think there's another one, but yeah, sorry, I tend to go on for a while.
No, you're good. Honestly, it's so great because I can tell you're trying to format a kind of a way. And what I love is like it's positive form. Like there's always an option to do something. Like you shouldn't be doing nothing, just do something. But like that low hanging fruit is something that is probably like one step, and you just kind of keep going up. And the next thing you know, like your brand is more robust. But go back to the very beginning of our conversations when you talked about, you're making a shift from prolific prints to prolific, because it's going to put in that it's not just a smaller set of services. It's a bit bigger than that. But you didn't worry about when you were making your first T-shirt, your first logo, or your first website of like, oh man, like what if I change a name? What if what if I want to change my colors or do something like that? Because you start the impression of who you are, and that is going to continue throughout. As the colors change, as the logo may change, it's still going to be the core of who you are, which is why it's important to start there. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We change a bit and we learn more, and our customers may even change, or the services we offer change. And so that's okay. I think a lot of people, they say, they may look at it like, oh man, I don't have time to do this whole rebranding thing, but it's in steps. If you don't have time, you do have time to do it, and you do have the money to do it. What you're really telling me, if somebody says that, is I don't really value it. I don't really care about it, right? I don't really see the how it will benefit me, because really we have the time and money for what we want to. And if you want to have a better brand, and you want customers to say more, if you want customers that spend more often, refer more people like that to you, then you'll take the time to understand those customers and understand how they perceive you, and understand and think about how we can improve those touch points that we have that reinforce those things to customers. Take the time to do those things. And I think, it's just, I think it's so much in our culture today, we just sort of like even like think about like the divorce rate. Like people say they love somebody, but then they do things that don't match up, right? Or you say you love your customers, you don't do things that match up. You say your business is valuable and your employees are important to you, but the things you do don't match up. And so, this isn't everybody, obviously. The point being is I think it's very attractive to people to finally find somebody that does what they're going to say, or say what they're going to do, or whatever, reverse, right? It's so rare nowadays. So if you can just do stuff that you promised and just do it, that's all you have to do. You don't have to be the best, amazing, most company ever. You just simply have to say who you are, tell your employees how and why and what that means you're going to do, and then just actually fulfill on it, and build some accountability to make sure those things happen. And people will love that,
Yeah. And I love, we've been talking for a while now, and we haven't been talking about what colors mean or this and that. Like, it always goes back to that core belief, which is why I think people rave about working with you, Ryan. So if you're unfamiliar with Ryan, definitely go check him out. But we talked a little bit before, and if you'd be willing, I'd love to do it. Is some people
Yeah.
posted on our Facebook user group some of their vehicle wraps, some of the images what they're bringing out. And it's almost just like a truck wrap review. But I have a branding expert. I would love to kind of hear, maybe some thoughts. I know some of these are ones that actually, as I mentioned, you have some raving fans. Have you thought about branding your fan base, Ryan? Have you thought about maybe giving them a little something, because they are passionate. So I know some of these are your clients. Some may not. I'm going to do a
Yeah.
screen share in a moment here. If you're listening on the audio only version, I'll include these images either in the description below. I'll have a way to kind of see what we're talking about if you're listening to the podcast version. But I wanted to start off here with Nate Miller and Airlux. He is a client of yours, so go ahead and
Yep.
share my screen. Get it on up there. Um, and so hopefully you're seeing it there. I will say, just in my non-professional sort of opinion, kind of what I like about it, but I'd love to hear any thoughts you kind of have. I do love that it's heating and cooling, just the dynamic color set, the separation kind of that. But for me, when I think of heating and cooling, I think of movement, and for some reason this says movement to me. I think I could picture flowing air.
Hmm. And with this company, they came to us. A lot of people come in the same situation where they went to the rat place and they got something that was just awful, and then they look outside, and we're not the only good designers out there in the world. I'm full aware of that, but a lot of these wrap shops, they don't have somebody in house that really does. A lot of them are smaller companies. They're more about the printing and the actual install. And so Nate brought this to us, and the icon was created. It was kind of a brand refresh. Like, so he had that icon where we really took everything up to the next level. We can't obviously see the old logo there, but the idea, like, and this is how a lot of people are. They have the right idea. They just need it professionally executed. And so he had that same logo, and we just refreshed it. We created an entire brand look around it that scaled across many more materials as well. And this looks like, this looks like a company that you can trust, that a company that you can depend on, and that also you don't think you're paying, you don't think you're going to get a deal on the invoice at the end or anything like that. Like, this is a professional company. I think it really will aid them in where they're at and, moving in the future.
And yeah, thanks for Nate for allowing us to share that. I'm going to go a couple ahead here. This is Jeremiah Green, who I saw in the comments earlier. Hopefully he stuck around so you can see his wrap on here. We're familiar with Jeremiah, Green Pro Services, one of his newest ventures here. Could you tell me about not so much the experience of Jeremiah, not the client brand or privilege here, but kind of some thoughts around this design, or in particular what you're proud of most with it.
This is where I think, if I recall right, like, he didn't know exactly, or maybe I can't quite recall, but the bridge is where that came from was it's a local symbolism deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people don't really know what to do with their logo, and that's one of the things that maybe something you want to look at is that local symbolism. That they wanted to bring in that idea of being local, and this is the way that we did that. And then he wanted something that was really bright and just vibrant, and I don't think you can miss these vehicles. And as you can see in the background, he's scaling the whole look out on everything, and they're just blowing up with this brand. And again, it's just you can have the best company with the worst visual brand ever, but you're doing that in spite of your brand, not because of it, right? And so having something that's really going to allow you to communicate the way you want and stand out the way you want to aids you in your efforts instead of hindering you. And I think that this is really working well for him to do all that. So.
Yeah, I know Jeremiah also, he's been doing some stock footage work. He's been doing, he always has.
We're actually going to be working with him to be able to offer those to our customers, which is going to be really cool. So,
Ooh,
yeah, they're doing some really cool work with that.
Nice. It's almost a little insider tip there. So this is why you watch the live stream. You never know what might be coming down the pike. We're taking another one here, but this is Douglas Wilkins, Rescue Force Heating and Air. How many people come in? I love this one, but how many people come in with "I want to be a superhero"? Like is that the most common? That's what I want to be at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, it's not as common as you would think, but we actually started out. Here's some other insider stuff here. I don't think Doug will have a problem with me sharing, but he actually started out. I think we started like around like more of like sort of GI Joe and police type stuff as like the theme, and we ended up just through that brand discovery and talking. Like we had a few back and forths to get to just the concept. And what I always tell people is that, if the concept is good, as long as you're dealing with a company that you believe can execute it, then you're good to go. But if the concept is broken, doesn't matter who executes it, it ain't going to work. So, it took us a bit of time, but we narrowed in on this being the right feel for his brand because, we wanted that bit of sort of fun in there, right? Like that sort of bright and fun. And so that's those little shifts that a professional can help you work through. And this other idea that we had just wasn't going to have the right feel, even though it sort of meant the same things in some ways. This really came together well. And, I think it's definitely a favorite that, there's a couple, there's several pieces that people, oh, I saw this and, this one is definitely one that brings us a lot of people, interested in doing branding and things like that. So
Yeah, I also see, kind of just on the side here, the 24-hour emergency service that he offers. It might be a little difficult if you have the superhero, but you have a stop point, So it kind of, you talk about, like the things that he offers, that's the feeling that he's kind of conveying. So it's not to say that you can't have a superhero if you have limited hours, but that's one of those things where he's able to kind of talk about, that feeling that he wants to convey. And while, yes, it's on the truck there, I don't know if it's on, I don't know how big his fleet is, if it's on every single one of his vehicles, but he might not have to have 24-hour service on there. I think it's good that he does. But, that's a feeling that could come about. So it's that brand congruence that you talked about.
yeah, and another thing on this before you flip it, one thing I'll just point out about all wraps, we try to do is I call it 3 W's. It's wow, who, and what. And a lot of people might look at some of these wraps and be like, I wish the phone number was bigger. Like, that's like the main thing you hear from contractors, right? Like phone number bigger, service list. Wow, who, what. So that's the order of importance. That's the flow we're trying to get. And so the first thing we want to do is wow the viewer. We want to grab their attention. You can't talk to them if you don't have their attention. Second thing is, who is this? This is Rescue Force. What do they do? Heating and air. And the fourth thing, which doesn't even necessarily have to be there because this is a branding piece. This is not a direct marketing piece. We're not expecting people to like call straight off this. It's the branding piece, not a marketing piece. And so the fourth thing is how do we get in touch with you, right? And that's the website and the phone number. And then you can have some of those different call outs, but the main thing is like those 3 things. And if it hinders one of those 3 things, it has to go. So that's kind of the format we work with.
Wanted to go ahead and have one here. This is Brian Crowder. I don't believe that you did Brian's.
Right.
But this one in particular, you talked about, I see the numbers kind of visual, things like that. This is a very clean, kind of streamlined look.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, just as someone's looking at it, obviously I don't put in a position to talk about someone else's work in a sense. But like what kind of just catches your eye first here? Because I think that you probably have a unique eye when you look of like, all right, this right there, like that's, maybe it's a start, or maybe like if there's one thing I'm not going to change, I might change a bunch of other things, but one thing I'm not going to change, it's this. What stands out for Brian's here?
So what I really like about this one is the icon that I'm under the assumption is probably their logo icon, the house there in the center. And what you see there is that, to me anyways, and maybe the people viewing this as well can see if this is how their eye is going, but you immediately see that house. Would you agree with that? Did you see that? Or, yeah. So like that's the first thing you see. But then where does your eye go next? and that's where, and so now we have that icon really, I think is sharp, and it's like, wow, but then where's the who? And so we go over to low pressure roof. And so now we've skipped over who and we've gone to what. So I think that they have a really, a great opportunity to brand this icon there. I think just the flow could be slightly better here, but I think the icon is really, and honestly, that's the most important part, because once if you have the right logo look, then doing the other stuff's a bit easier. But yeah, I think the lines and the motion work well. And this is cut vinyl. If I would assume by the look of this, if people are wondering, and with cut vinyl, you can, this is probably like a sales vehicle. This is a great way to help build your brand and sort of expand the look of your fleet and stuff like this. So I love this idea of doing these sales cars that are cheaper vehicles than the big trucks. Get your brand out there more. And I think we may have mentioned this, but 50,000 impressions per day on your vehicle.
Yeah.
If these guys got this thing parked out on a nice street or got it driving around, I mean, they're going to be really putting it a lot more brand awareness out there, which is great.
Which brings up a question I didn't really think about till we kind of dove in here on Brian's, because I know like the Curb Appeal Solutions, that's company name there, so it is kind of close there. But is there any thought if someone's wrapping a whole fleet, so to speak, of what vehicles might go in tandem? So like if this small vehicle is just I know given some of the restrictions and things, some companies had to have employees travel separately, to keep social distance. They weren't packing, guys and gals into a van, so maybe they, had another vehicle there. So this was always next to a big box truck. Is there some thought that goes into that? I mean, is there kind of like a rule of thumb of everything should be the same, or should things kind of work together? I mean,
all the wraps. So this is the tricky part about wrap fleets, is essentially what you want to do is the goal with wrap fleets is to have everything look the same. The challenge is that they are not the same. And so making all of these different shapes and sizes of vehicles and styles of vehicles look like they're the same design, even though you've actually had to adapt and maneuver and move and scale probably a lot of stuff. That's the challenge. But the goal is to look at them all and visually someone to not be able to really at a glance even tell that there's anything different about them, because it all just looks the same. So that's the goal with fleets. And then this way it just helps to keep that brand recognition, because, just as an example, if this company was, let's just say some wrap company decided that they were going to do like orange and blue instead of green and blue on the next one. Well, to a customer, just a regular viewer, they just, to them, that's a different company. They're not going to be able to make that connection. And so that's obviously an extreme, having different color sets, but somewhere in the middle, there's people that are having differences that ought really, in my mind, they ought to be just the same, because that eliminates any question, right? Like, how different should we have them? Well, if we just say we shouldn't have them different at all as far as visually look, then that's a very easy way to do it and create the look we want, right? Or the brand consistency that we want. So.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up one more example, because I just saw him in the chat. Mario Alvarado, excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong there. Because we talked about earlier about going the full wraps. Now, he does not have a full wrap on this one. He has kind of the magnet. But he has, the hoodie, so there's that kind of brand awareness there. So if Mario comes to you in this sort of position and he's kind of looking for it, almost could you break down of like, look, if you invest a little bit more, like a full wrap or whatever the next step may be, like how's that exponentially going to kind of build the brand more?
Yeah, I mean, when people get wraps done with us, what they like, just even some people pay for that within, I would say most people pay for the whole thing with calls coming in directly from the wraps within a few months. And like I said, it's not really a marketing piece, but you will still get marketing from it, but it's primarily intended to be a branding piece. And, we've had people that, the impression that your customers get and all that will just increase as well. But most people are paying for these things with those very quickly, right? So they pay for themselves quickly. It's a one-time investment. Be on your vehicle for 5 to 7 years, depending on your location. And you get 50,000 impressions on it per day. And it doesn't have to be a full wrap. Can you toggle quick over to this image I sent you in Messenger, and then we'll flip back to this in a moment?
Yeah, so I'll bring up my screen for a second while I get to that. But you sent me one over as we were getting prepped beforehand. I believe it's this one here, 1 hour locksmith. That's on the screen now, yeah?
So this right here, I just want to show this one because this is cut vinyl lettering. Just like that car we saw from Curb Appeal earlier. Okay. This is not a full wrap. This is a white vehicle with black and light blue cut, or not black, but a dark gray and light gray and blue cut vinyl lettering. So, you know, depending on your installer, you know, depends on what your installer recommends, but this can be done for probably pretty inexpensive. I would guesstimate probably under $1,500, maybe even under $1,000, printed and installed, because they don't have a lot of material. A lot of people think that they're paying for labor in this stuff. I can tell you a lot of these shops take a loss on labor. The material is very expensive, and they take a big risk of, you know, of excess material and having to do something again. But this is pretty inexpensive to get done. And it just goes to show you that the design is really the most important thing. If you can get the design right, and if you tell somebody, hey, it's important to me that I have minimal coverage or lettering only, you know, you can design around that. And, you know, of course, we always need to be on a white vehicle now, unless you're going to, you know, if you got a different color, you'd have to do something different. But point being with that other one, if you want to flip back to that one, this look, using the full canvas, having a design that really works in the order of importance we want, I think the total impression over like a small magnet or a small vinyl sign on the door or on the side, I think is going to have a much higher impact. And it's going to work a lot better. So, you know, I think
Ryan, I'm gonna keep going, but I gotta mention Mario actually sent me he has some upgrades, so I'm gonna raise that now. So we'll kind of see the process there. But sorry, continue your point there as I bring up Mario's next one. I'm gonna transfer it over now, Mario.
Yeah, if somebody like this, had that type of thing, you know, I would just ask them, you know, what do they want with it? You know, what are their goals with that? And if they wanted to start to build a bigger brand awareness, if they wanted to try to get more calls from it, then basically using the real estate available to you, meaning the whole vehicle, right? And the only point of the cut vinyl lettering is you don't have to necessarily have a full wrap to use the full vehicle is my point there. So I think a lot of people they don't know the cost with this stuff. And they don't realize that like you could get two magnets on either side of your doors for like $200, but you could get even if, let's just say you're just going to still just do the logo, you weren't going to do like kind of the full deal, you could do a nice big logo on each side of your vehicle for probably less than $500 and cut vinyl lettering and not, you know, look a lot nice. So here he's gone to the lettering so he's still not, you know, this isn't a partial or full wrap. There's something behind him there too, and I can't quite.
Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. I don't know how it's going to look.
Yeah, I can see like a service list. That might be a window there. I'm not sure, but now he's using a lot more of that space. And honestly, like, you know, the magnet, you know, let's be real, like outside of like 50 feet away or more, you're not going to really be able to read the magnet. So this, I think, is going to be a lot. And you can even ask him in the comments, but I'm sure he gets a lot better feedback with this. I'm sure he gets seen a lot more. People don't even see the magnets. That's what a lot of people don't realize. The magnets is really for like looking professional when you pull up to a job and seeming like you're legit. But, you know, no one really sees the magnets. No one sees that little stuff. This is something where you can start to create some actual, you know, brand awareness in your community with that.
This is a second one he just sent me as well.
Yeah.
I feel like, Mario, I hope I didn't, offend you by putting the first one out there. Just how you sent me there. I'm not sure the second one came up here.
For him for the next ones is, you know, and this is why we talk about like who the wow, who, what, is it I think this kind of low res image you have here is great because look at what you can read here. You can read the company name, you can read the phone number, you can read the web address, but we can't read anything else there, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good point because a lot of people just put this, they put on stuff that you don't really need because it doesn't aid to the wow, who or what, and or it doesn't really, or it's not visible, or maybe it is something they need, but it's too small. And so, you know, you can find these guides online with how far away like you can read things, but you know, if you're like 50 feet away from something, it has to be like a 3-inch text. And, you know, if you have like little, you know, 1/2 inch or 1-inch text height fonts, it's not readable. So when things aren't readable, I always tell people, what's the point in it being there then? Wouldn't it look cleaner if that just wasn't there? So now you're asking better questions because you're saying, well, if it's not readable, is it worth being on there? Because obviously I don't really want it that big, or do I actually want it there and I just want it a lot bigger? And so now you can make some little adjustments, and those are, you know, especially with lettering, that's pretty easy to do because, you know, you can just, you know, make it bigger. And he could even do that on those if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Like that little bit of lettering, you know, for an extra $150, make it bigger, or just take it off. He could take it off himself if he's like, wow, Ryan's right. It looks cleaner without that, you know?
And it's great because we saw the story there. Like we saw the brand, you know, evolving, but going from, hey, he knew he had to have something on the vehicle. Like just the white vehicle probably wasn't going to work, you know, and he made sure that his uniform, the hoodie, matched what you saw, you know? So someone knew when the van pulled up in front of the house, you know, the magnet's right there, and he gets out, it's the same sort of thing. You have that brand congruence right there. But then, you know, it's more and more. In that last photo, we also saw he has it on, forgive me if I say it wrong, the wand, you know, the cleaning element there. So it's all those touch points. The equipment he's bringing in looks like the hoodie, looks like the truck, probably matches the business card. I hope he has a convert site and it matches his you know, his NiceJob website as well. But he did it all thing. And so we saw that journey, and I'm sure he's still growing.
And the thing that I think people either discount or don't think it really matters as much is that the way that he feels right now, hopping out with, you know, a lettered, you know, an actually lettered truck, not just the magnet, and having like his, you know, different sort of signage in branded points and things like that. You know, he probably feels 100 times better than when he was coming out with that magnet, you know, and that's the thing is you don't want to admit it when you have just the magnet, but I'm guarantee you he feels so much more professional. He feels so much more confident. I would guess, I mean, I can't talk for him, but I would guess, and it would be interesting if he confirms that maybe in the comments, but I would assume that he really feels more confident going to jobs. And think about it like this too, even if as you grow, if you have 10 trucks and you're worried about the cost of that, don't you want your guys to feel confident, you know, pulling up to jobs and getting out and feeling like they're really a part of something and really there to get to work? And so, you know, I think it's definitely worth doing even for those points. The better we feel, the better we do, and you know, for us and for others. So.
Yeah, he did comment. He's like, I was scared in the beginning with the white van. So, you know, again, I like the fact that, you know, he puts something on there and he goes, but he's not afraid, and almost you can see that he wants to make it better. He wants to make it better. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm going to guess for you, Mario, that he every so often allows himself to think about the big fleet, the full wraps, and he allows himself to do that. And you know, he's working hard, and he's getting there to go after and do it. Well, Ryan, I mean, go ahead. Yeah, we could.
You always start where you're at. There's, you know, when I started carpet cleaning, like 15, 20 years ago, I literally started with black and white one-side flyers because that's all I could afford. Okay, you know, and it was only one-sided flyers. They were black and white only, and I just started going to doors, and that's what I had. You start with where you're at, and honestly, like, I don't even know if you can get to the higher places without starting where you're at, because if you can't manage where you're at, how are you going to manage something more advanced, right? So, so you start where you're at and you do what you can and just maximize everything and leverage everything you can. And then as it's available, you know, don't be afraid to make those jumps. And that's what people like him are doing as they grow. You know, you have to be sort of fearless as you get to those checkpoints. And whenever you get to a spot too that seems tough, like one thing that I was like, we all hit some pretty rough challenges and rough patches and things like this in business at some point. Some of them might be that, you know, some of them don't sound bad to another person, but they really, for your business, you know, that it's a challenge. And I was looking at it like this, you know, if you're not ready to take the next step, then why are you in business? And I say this to myself, you know, this is how I really get sort of like, the way that I am is really kind of burn my bridges type of mentality with things. And it's, look, if I'm not ready to push through this hurdle, this challenge, I should just close down, because if I'm not going up, I'm going down. And, you know, I decided to do this. I got in business. I signed up for this, right? I signed up for the employees. I signed up for the ad spend. I signed up for all these stuff, you know, and I knew it was going to get hard. And I know that it's growth. You're going to have different and new challenges and new expenses. And you just have to, when you get to those things, you just have to kind of take the jump. As soon as you know the direction, take the jump and push forward and keep growing.
Well, Ryan, I know there's plenty of people there are glad that you made that jump to go into Prolific. If someone wants to get in touch with you, you know, we've been talking for an hour so far, and I could definitely go an hour more because I love your passion about it. But I do think it's genuinely unique, because this is an essence of who these businesses are and who these people are. But if someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch with you or learn more about you?
Yeah, they can go to Get Prolific, GET Prolific.com. And also, I would highly recommend that brand checklist that I'll send you over, and you can drop that in the comments. And I would check through that, and then that way, if they have any thoughts or questions, they can bounce those off of us. My brother Travis is our lead sales, so if they are interested in getting some more information, they'll be able to get in touch with him. And then when it comes to some of the branding type stuff, you know, I can definitely, you know, help with strategy sessions and things like that for that. But yeah, check out some of, you know, the stuff that we have out there, and you know, definitely get in touch with our team if you need any help with, you know, with starting to get to the next level on certain aspects of this. So.
Well, Ryan, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for carving out some time for us here in the Nice Job User Group for another Nice Job Live Chat. And we'll be talking more again to Ryan soon. I have a feeling, just based on some of the comments and the thumbs up that I'm seeing, that I want to get you back. Maybe our next strategic sessions we'll get you in, but we'll have a nice waiting list for your room, because I know everyone is going to be dying to get in there. Ryan, thank you so much, and have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks, Sean. See ya. Bye.